Dan, Chris Russo, New York. How are you today, pal?
Good, Chris. How you doing?
I'm all right. Now, I did not read it, but all my little buddies told me that you had some scathing, and I don't blame you. I did the same thing. You had some scathing remarks about Manny sometime over the weekend regarding his little wildcat strike. Wednesday against Felix Hernandez, and then Friday against Jabba. Why don't you refresh? What was the basic theme of your story over the weekend?
Well, it just looked, the team didn't believe he was hurt, and I didn't believe him either. And that's why they sent him out for the double MRI, one on each knee, and they came back clean, and they threatened to suspend him if he didn't play on Saturday, and he did play on Saturday. So I'm not sure that suspension would have held up with the Players Association, but they made it pretty clear what they thought about what he was doing. And
you basically said this is a disgrace?
It is. I mean, and again, I like Manny, and he's delivered a lot of goods here in 7.5 years. I don't think he's evil. He doesn't really drag down the clubhouse, none of that stuff. But, the one thing, I can pretty much go with anything, going inside the wall, make a call, take a leak, whatever, or, a lot of the cartoon stuff that he does is kind of fun, and his foibles in left field, and even the Cadillac and at home plate, most of that stuff I can let go. But when you just lay down on your team, it's not okay, and you can't prove it, but we saw this in 2006, and from all appearances, we saw it again this week. The contract thing's in his head, and it looked like he was trying to lay down the team.
Yeah, it reads that way to me, too. Now, couple things. Number one, if you watched Francona on Sunday night in that little 5-minute or 30-second snippet with ESPN during the Yankee game, he looked a little worn out by it. He said, I've been doing this for 4.5 years. Hopefully this is past us now. He looked a little more worn out, not the happy, jovial Terry Francona, no big deal, we'll survive. I didn't get that sense when I looked at that little 20-second snippet there on Sunday night. Give me a take on that first.
Well, he hates that in-game interview, which is kind of a violation of baseball procedure, and nobody really likes it, and then Tito has problems doing that thing. Apart from that, sure. I mean, he's done as good a job as anybody possibly could, getting as much as you can out of Manny Ramirez, who's one of the Hall of Fame great hitters of all time. But he's been a handful. It's been a headache for the manager. Try and keep things at bay, answer the media's questions, and not look like you're completely rolling over for this guy. So it taxes the patience and the baseball best senses of a guy like Terry Francona.
All right, how about the John Henry quote this week? You can repeat that. I forgot what he said, but he sounded like he was really upset. Personal attack, da-da-da. He had some issues there. What was going on with this Manny Ramirez thing late last week?
Well, there was a spate back during the All-Star break. Manny went on television in a Boston station and had a newspaper interview in which he talked about the organization telling him one thing and then going behind his back and doing another. And Henry sent an email to the newspaper saying that, he was personally offended by that remark, and that's, in his view, not the way that they do business. So this was a rare rebuke from the owner, and I think in this case, Theo Epstein, in my view, has never really wanted Manny around as much as he's gotten production from him. This just flies in the face of what they tried to teach and develop here. And I think in this case, with Manny insulting the owner and the owner firing back, that probably ownership has gone over to Theo's side in this thing, which is why we're all pretty sure that they won't renew the contract next year, and we'll try to trade him, although I doubt they will.
Yeah, I don't think they will either, but I do definitely think they're not going to pick up this option. Or how about his teammates, most importantly? I mean, we all know Ortiz goes out of his way to throw the white towel on him and hug him every time he, crosses the plate. But I wonder about Youkilis and Pedroia and Lowell and Drew, the sort of the soul of the club, Varitek, those 5 or 6. Are they all fed up with Manny, or is it just Manny being Manny? Even in 2 games he sits out, as long as he hits, will be okay. How about the team now, the fabric of the ball club in that clubhouse?
Well, at best you get no reaction at all, and publicly that's always what it is. Now, one of his teammates did call it a disgrace on Friday, but wouldn't let his name be used in that. Other guys, Curt Schilling.
Do you know who that teammate was, Danny?
I do, but I can't tell.
Well, I don't ask you to, but is it a significant player?
Well, I think so.
Okay, well, that's what I want to know.
Now, Curt Schilling has talked about it. He came the closest to publicly ripping Manny, because Curt will talk about anything and no holds barred, which can be a good or bad thing. But, Manny's had a free pass, and I think the players start to resent it. And don't forget, this was David Ortiz's big comeback weekend, and it was completely overshadowed by the Manny Manny antics all 3 days. Talked to Jack Curry of the New York Times. He came to Boston, and he wrote Manny 3 days in a row.
Yes, he did.
And that's the New York Times. So it's it did overwhelm everything else, which is unfortunate. And guys, yeah, I think veteran guys, Lowell and Veritek, get tired of it, but nobody's going to publicly come out and blast him.
All right. How about the fans in Boston who, you know, listen, he hits so well for them that they usually give him a pass. As you said, they like the idea of taking a leak in the Green Monster, things like that. He's a goofball, and some of them, if they win, can appreciate that. If you listen to EEI right now, did this go over the top for lots of Boston Red Sox fans?
There's still a lot of people. There's nothing Manny can do to insult them, and they're always going to love him no matter what. And I understand that. His talent is so great, it's allowed him to live without rules and do what he wants. And most of the time, it's all good. So that's an eroding faction, I think. I think a lot of people see the overall picture here, and as much as they like it, it's beginning to become a headache, and they maybe resent that he's making all the money and is worried about the next contract. And so there's a little bit more, I don't know, balance and reason coming into it, but there's still a large faction, and I understand it. You know,
he's a great hitter. He's a great hitter. You can't argue with that.
Yeah.
Now, the one thing, Danny, that I would say this year, we all thought that Manny this year would have a, you know, astronomical season. You know, pick up the option. Boris is there as his agent. He got off to a great start. I mean, if at all you really thought that this year was a year that Manny was going to, you know, 45 homers, 150 RBIs, hit 330, and wow, we had to re-sign him. And he really, you know, I know he got hot the last 2-3 games, but he really hasn't done a lot. You know, the team wasn't phenomenal when Ortiz was out. You know, 20 homers, 68 RBIs. I can name you 30 guys in baseball who have that.
Yeah, by his standards, it's not a monster year, certainly. And there's a little bit of a decline. He's going to be 37 next May, and the bat's maybe not quite as fast. He's going for a few more high fastballs, it looks like. He can still deliver, but I think that, and as you cited at the start here, that look, taking days off against a Hernandez or a Chamberlain, maybe there's a little bit in his mind where he doesn't want to keep up with the 100-mile-an-hour stuff at this point. He's still a great hitter, but he's not the dominant force that he was 5 or 6 years ago.